Come on. I did shave for this today.
I must have skipped that part. It's like
Like
on
my
Toy
goatee?
Story. Yeah, it's nice. It's like on Toy Story. He's like, all right, keys, wallet, check, shower.
Skip the shower.
Yeah, I'll skip the shower. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Wooded Rancher Productions. On today's video, we're going to be reviewing some four-wheelers that we've actually, they're reds, but I have the pleasure of being able to use them when I come up here because I'm just that helpful to him. But today we're going to be reviewing his equipment and the purpose that it served and pros and cons, what's worked, what's not worked, the upgrades that you've done, and go from there.
Okay, so this is how this played out. I went to the Polaris dealership. I knew I wanted a four-wheeler. So I stopped in and I had done a little bit of research beforehand, and I talked to the sales guy about the Polaris 450, which is what this one is, and I did a test ride in the parking lot, but you don't really get the full experience unless you are out in the woods or on a farm or somewhere other than a parking lot. But it did meet all my expectations. But once I had it for a week or two, I had just kind of figured out it didn't have all the power that I want. And so I did go back and I purchased the 570, which is the next step up. It is the same body style, the framework is all the same, but the 570 is just a little bit of an upgrade in power. Yeah, so when you buy these, I believe the front bumper, if I remember correctly, it comes on it. This rail does not, the rear rail does not, but the plastic platform does. But it has, what do you call these, halogen headlights?
Sure. For
high beam, low beam, and they work, but they leave a little bit to be desired in my opinion. I did upgrade my headlights on the 570, and it's got the, I believe they're halogen and LED with an LED border. For me, they work great because I do struggle a little bit at night with vision, but it's not like I have to have them.
Yeah, I've never been on the trail and been like, I can't see.
Right, for sure. But, you know, for farm use and what I use them for, both are fine. I did put a winch on this guy, and there have been a few times where I've had to get myself out of spots, not with my four-wheelers, but where I've sank my mower into a few places on a bank where I couldn't get out, and I've had to have someone come pull me up. But yeah, so I've upgraded wheels and tires. So on the stock tires, these are a bit more aggressive, which I do like when you're trail riding in the woods and in the snow. But on rainy days, I do bounce between this four-wheeler and this four-wheeler. But on rainy days, I tend to lean towards the 570 because the tires that I have on it are not as aggressive and they don't tear up the grass as much. Yeah, so I've put side rails on for trail. This is more so meant for trail riding. If you're riding and you get up at an angle and you're squeezing between two trees, it'll hit the rails and not your plastic. I think what else I've done, I've put a gun rack on the back. There's multiple styles, and I do have another style, but it protrudes out the side and it tends to be in the way, so that's why I stick with the rear rack.
Now that gun rack, is that an actual Polaris product? Or
no, it's not. That's just
aftermarket?
An aftermarket. Okay.
Well, that does come in handy when you're hunting or whatever you're hauling a rifle around for, but also, if you watch some of our other videos, it holds a chainsaw as well. Comes in handy.
It's not meant to hold a chainsaw,
well, but it
can.
Works.
But I did purchase a chainsaw holder. I have just not added it on here yet.
So the difference between Red and I is kind of like these four-wheelers. I'm okay with stock as long as it fits my need, which I'm not very needy. I mean, look at me.
I'm needy.
Kind of. And then, you know, he's got to have all the bells and whistles because, frankly, he lives here. But, you know, so even though they're not mine, they're his. And so I get to use them. I tend to kind of gravitate towards this one because it gets the job done. It hauls my butt around.
Well, Yeah, but the difference between you and me, though, is I tend to be over there on that mountain. Dano has the CF Moto four-wheelers. He's got like 5 of them. And I don't know if anybody's on here ever purchased a CF Moto or you're thinking about it. Dano loves them for the most part. I don't. I'll buy Polaris every day just to stay away from the CF Motos. But here's probably my number one reason. I'm not the only one that rides these four-wheelers. John here rides them. I've got other siblings that do. The stability on the Polaris, in my opinion, is a lot better than any of the other four-wheelers I've ridden out there, such as Honda, CF Moto, Yamaha. The independent front and rear suspension, in my opinion, while a lot of other manufacturers out there have front and rear independent suspension, in my opinion, the Polaris is just much more stable. And I don't know why. I can't tell you why exactly, but from riding a lot of different four-wheelers, the Polaris just seems to be the most grounded. And you will, if you see me riding from time to time, you will see me shift on the upper side of the four-wheeler. I think that's natural for anybody to do that. But I've never caught myself in a position where I've been on some steep stuff, and I have been on some pretty steep stuff where I've ever felt like I was about to tip over.
But to Red's point, the stability on these things, we were trying to do a wheelie and could barely get the front end to come off the ground. Not because of the power, but I think just the way these things are built, they're not built for fooling around. I mean, you can have plenty of fun, and I'm sure you could turn this thing over.
I mean, there's things that you can do, like loosen up the rear suspension to where it sags when you goose it. I mean, don't get me wrong. This one is not as wheelie friendly as the 450, believe it or not, even though this is a smaller motor. But this one has got more weight in the front, and I think some of that has to do with my tire and wheel upgrade, and probably the winch would be some of the factors. But unless you get into, I believe, I don't remember what the next model up is from the 570. It might be the
850. Is there an 850?
It's either the 850 or the 800, I believe.
Okay.
Someone can comment below and let us know on that. But you can get into the Polaris Raptor, and that's when you really start hitting extra power, and you can, but those I think are definitely meant for racing around. But for farm use, I use these for everything. I've used them for feeding cows and checking fence line, and I tie some the cow trough behind it when I'm ready to relocate the cows from one pasture to another, and
pulling kids in the snow.
Yeah, I had kids behind me on a sled because I'm too lazy to climb a hill just to sled down it, so I just tied the sleds behind it. And again, these tires, they're great for not tearing up the grass, but they're not the greatest for the snow or real steep loose terrain. But that was a preference that I wanted, so I didn't tear up the grass, especially in springtime when it just rains a lot, and we are just trying to let the pasture grow and for the cattle, because that's not great if you're tearing up everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we have some pretty steep hills around here, and we were kind of chuckling when we were coming up to this section of the field to film this, because I was carrying a camera and a drone and different things, and just coming up the hill I forgot to switch it in 4-wheel drive, but I came up it just fine. It's pretty steep, and we'll throw the footage in there. And so just like the traction control on these things, well, I'm not a mechanic, I'm not smart enough to know, other than there was a steep hill and I went up it with very little effort. So side note, we are not sponsored by Polaris, And so we're not being paid to, you know, promote their stuff, but, you know, Red's had these four-wheelers for about 3 years, and, you know, I don't think you've had to really even have any repairs on them other than just general maintenance, oil change, fuel. And, you know, there's a bunch of aftermarket parts that you can do. So as we continue to use them and find out cool things, then we'll continue to let you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be something that I don't love about something, but I feel like overall Polaris has done a really good job. But there are a few little things that I find at times a little annoying. But the hitch hookup on the rear end, it is I think it's a 1-inch bar that you have to buy a specific ATV ball mount hitch, and that can be at times annoying. You know, around here we have tons of trailer hitch receivers, and trying to find the right one to match, you know, the four-wheelers, you know, that has been an aggravation from time. But, you know, I've purchased those, but that's just another expense that I have to make to accommodate for these four-wheelers. But, you know, the CF Moto, that it takes a true 2-inch hitch receiver that you can slide up in there. And, you know, there are just a few little things here and there that I find where I'm like, man, you know, Polaris could have done a little bit different. But, you know, they're definitely not meant for pulling large trailers or anything like that. But, you know, I have a little wagon that, you know, takes an 1 7/8 ball, and, you know, another little wagon that just takes a pintle hook down into it. And, you know, the plastic, another con that I'm finding over time, the plastic on the front, mainly the black, it's starting to have that weathered gray. It's going from black to gray, and that's just from the sun exposure. And, you know, that's a little bit on my part where I've not kept them stored inside. But, you know, unfortunately, the reality is they get left outside in the rain and the sun. And, you know, for 3 years of them sitting outside, they've held up pretty well. But we are in the middle of purchasing a barn, or building a barn, so it'll you know, over time here in the next little bit, we'll be storing them inside, out of the weather. The other thing would be the headlights. They seem to rattle over time, and I have to reset them to where they're not just aiming every which way, mainly for the high beam, and same for this guy.
So brass tacks out the door. In 2021, when you purchased these, what did you spend?
I think initially on the 450, I think all stock, and adding the front bumper and the rear bumper, I think tax out the door from the dealership, $6,700. And then on the 570, I went ahead from the dealership, I added this front bumper, the rear bumper, this rail, the rear rail, and the winch. And I believe out the door I was maybe $8,300. They are semi-expensive out the door, and then once you start adding upgrades, I mean, I've probably got 9 or 10 grand in my 570. That's with, you know, headlight upgrades, which was, you know, $450, because I tried the LED bulbs in the traditional lenses, and they weren't very bright whatsoever. So on this one I did upgrade, but those were $450. These little guys are about $150. That's just pretty ridiculous. I think on tires and wheels, my other set of tires is why I went ahead and upgraded, but they were pretty bald, and so that's why I upgraded to these. But I think I've got $1,200 in my wheels, so probably a little over 10,000. But you know, we don't keep them clean. We don't wash them other than when they get rained on. But
just like anything, if you take care of it, if you maintain it, it'll last.
We just change the oil, and, you know,
keep gas in the tank.
Do all the little things of, you know, what needs to be done. But you won't see me with a Yamaha or a Honda or a CF Moto up here. I'll just keep buying Polaris,
and I'll keep riding them.
Huh? That's why I want you to keep coming around.
Oh, yeah, okay. So that's how it works on this farm.
I have to bribe people to come up here to see us because we're like, I don't know, almost an hour outside of the large city that we live near, and I don't know. We used to live in town, and don't get me wrong, sometimes I miss the convenience, but there's just nothing about living out on a farm. And
oh yeah,
but it definitely can become a, hey, come see us. Well, I got 4-wheelers and I mowed, and so there's no work to be done. Just come hang out.
The season of life that I am in with my family and the season of life Red is in and with his family are similar but different. And you know, so like my luxuries are his hardships and his hardships are my luxuries to some degree. And so I try to come up as much as I can, but the last 3 weeks I was working, I had some family members sick, and then I got sick on the 3rd week, and so I hadn't been up here. And so then this morning I was just like exhausted, and then Red texted me and was like, hey, you coming up here? I did all the work. You ain't got to work today. And I was like, well, let me talk to the wife. And so I was texting her because I was already at church, and she's like, sounds great, let's do it. And I was like, we coming. So,
yeah,
you know, there's a lot of work to be done on a farm, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I not everybody needs a 4-wheeler. You know, that's fine. Some things are used more of a luxury items, and there are much nicer models than these. These are more of the basic models, even in the 450 and the 570. Our dad has the 570, and his is also a 2021. But you know, he's got more of the premium package, which our dad is not old, but he's older. He's 75. You know, and his has power steering, and it also has
nice.
It also has like engine assisted braking. So as soon as he lets off the fuel, it starts braking on its own, and those are nice. But I didn't need those. But I bought these before I lived here, and I thought I was going to sell them. But then once living here for a while, I realized, you know, these are more so tools that we use on a daily basis to get around the farm, because there's a lot of places where we don't want to take our vehicles, or it's just too much trouble to try and take the vehicles up into the woods or into the fields, and these just get us around, and we have learned to value them more than just toys, and so we like it. So we'll just keep trucking right along with them until something shinier comes along.
Whatever.
Go get yourself some 4-wheelers. Polaris, if you want to sponsor us and you want us to use all your different models.
Well, actually, call me because he won't answer.
I'll answer. I have a rule in my family. If you call me once and I don't answer, that's fine. If it's an emergency, call me and then call me back to back again. Boy, I'll answer. I'll get up out of any meeting with whoever I'm meeting with, and I'll answer. So, Polaris, if you see this, call me twice.
But if you call him twice, just ask him a dumb question. By golly, you're going to take a verbal thrashing. All right, guys, thanks for watching today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you
found this review helpful, great. And if you didn't, well, sorry.
Thanks for the view.
Thanks for the view.
High five.
Hey! No.
Yeah.
It goes.
Okay, try it again. Ready?
Wow! Thanks for watching. Tell me, how does that feel?
Well, it's a little too hot at the moment. I burned my lips.
The 4-wheeler.